Growing up, Emily always felt like the odd one out among a group of friends. She was the kind of girl who loved adventure and trying new things, often dreaming of the freedom her friends seemed to enjoy. But standing in her way was her mother, Mrs. Thompson, a woman whose love for her daughter manifested in constant vigilance and a cautious nature. To Emily, it sometimes felt like her mom's protective instinct were a wall between her and the experiences she craved. Her friends would talk about their adventures, weekend trips, late night outings, and of course, sleepovers. Sleepovers were the crown jewel of their social lives, a blend of giggles, secrets, and whispered conversations in the glow of flashlights. Emily had longed to be part of that world for years, but Mrs. Thompson's answer was always the same: no, it's not safe. So when Madison, her best friend since kindergarten, invited her for a sleepover to celebrate her birthday, Emily's heart leaped with excitement. This wasn't just any sleepover, it was Madison's big birthday weekend, complete with all their closest friends. They had planned a magical night filled with movies, board games, makeovers, and gossip, a quintessential teenage rite of passage. To Emily, it was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. Mom, please, it's Madison's birthday and everyone's going. I'll be fine, I promise, Emily pleaded, her big eyes brimming with hope. Her voice was laced with urgency, the kind of desperation that came from years of hearing the same disappointing answer. This wasn't just a casual request. This was her desperate attempt to finally join in on the memories her friends seemed to make so effortlessly. The inside jokes, the unbreakable bonds forged in the soft glow of a late night movie marathon. Mrs. Thompson frowned, her face etched with worry. Emily, it's not about trusting you. I just don't feel comfortable letting you stay over at someone else's house. You're my baby, and I worry. Her tone was firm, but tinged with a softness that revealed her inner conflict. She wasn't trying to ruin Emily's fun, she was trying to protect her. Emily's shoulders slumped, and a wave of frustration washed over her. This was always the response. No matter how much she begged, her mother's answers were always a firm no. Each refusal felt like another reminder of how different her life was from her friends, who seemed to navigate their teenage years with a freedom she could only dream of. But this time, something inside her wouldn't let her accept defeat so easily. This was too important. Taking a deep breath, Emily tried again, her voice steadier this time. Mom, please, just this once. I'll call you if I'm uncomfortable or if anything happens. I promise. You'll be the first person I'll call. Her words were sincere, her eyes locked on her mother's with a determination that said she wasn't just asking, she was trusting her mom to meet her halfway. Mrs. Thompson hesitated, her fingers nervously twisting her wedding ring, a habit Emily had noticed her mom do only when she was truly conflicted. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, she let out a sigh, her shoulders relaxing ever so slightly. Okay, she said, surprising them both. Her voice was steady, but her eyes held a mixture of worry and resolve. But on one condition: if you feel the slightest bit uncomfortable, you call me immediately, no matter what time it is. I'll come get you. No questions asked. Emily's face lit up with joy, her excitement bubbling over. Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll be good. She threw her hands around her mother. For the first time, she felt like her mom trusted her, really trusted her, and that trust meant everything. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. That Friday night, Emily packed her sleeping bag and her favorite pajamas, her excitement bubbling over like a fizzy soda about to overflow. She carefully folded her pillow and tucked her favorite stuffed animal deep into her bag, a token of comfort she wasn't quite ready to leave behind, no matter how grown up she felt. Mrs. Thompson drove her to Madison's house, her hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. As they approached the brightly lit driveway, a faint smile softened her otherwise worried expression. "Remember, Emily," she said, her voice steady but warm, "I'm only a call away. If anything feels wrong, don't hesitate to let me know. Promise?" Emily turned to her mom, her face aglow with excitement, and nodded earnestly. "I promise," she said, leaning over to kiss her mom on the cheek. "Thank you for trusting me, Mom." As soon as Emily hopped out of the car, her bag slung over her shoulder, Madison and a few other girls on the porch burst into cheers. "Emily's here!" Madison exclaimed, rushing over to pull her friend inside. The house buzzed with energy. Bowls of candy lined the counter, and the smell of buttery popcorn filled the air. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emily didn't feel like the odd one out. She felt included, like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The first few hours were everything Emily had dreamed of and more. They painted their nails in bright glittering colors, sharing compliments and laughing at the clumsy smudges. They giggled over inside jokes and took endless selfies with silly filters, each one sillier than the last. Later, they sprawled across sleeping bags in the cozy living room, surrounded by the glow of string lights that Madison's mom had set up. A cheesy rom-com played on the TV, and they had stuffed their faces with pizza, popcorn, and candy until their stomachs ached. Laughter echoed through the house like a warm, comforting melody, and for once, Emily felt like she truly belonged, like she was part of the magic that she had only ever heard about from her friends. But as the clock ticked closer to midnight, the atmosphere began to change in subtle, unsettling ways. Whispers started in the corner of the room, growing more frequent and urgent. A few girls huddled together, their heads bent low as if they were sharing secrets too dangerous to be overheard. Emily's smile began to waver as she caught glimpses of small packets being pulled out of bags. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. The girls exchanged mischievous glances, their eyes gleaming with excitement that felt strangely out of place. Emily's stomach knotted as the realization dawned on her. Some of the girls had brought illegal substances. She tried to brush it off, focusing on the board game in front of her and pretending not to notice. But it was impossible to ignore the giggles that grew sharper, the hushed tones that carried a weight Emily didn't want to acknowledge. The laughter that had once felt so inviting now sounded brittle, like a glass ready to shatter. One of the girls nudged Madison, who glanced at Emily and smirked. "Hey, Emily, come join us," Madison said. Her tone was light and coaxing with a tint of challenge. "Don't be such a buzzkill. It's no big deal." Emily's heart raced, her pulse pounding in her ears. She shook her head, her voice quieter than she intended. "I'm fine, thanks." The room seemed to shift, the teasing laughter turning toward her. The girls exchanged looks, some giggling, others rolling their eyes. "What's the matter, Emily? Are you scared?" One of them jeered. Emily felt the walls of the room closing in. The once cozy living room, filled with the soft glow of string lights, now seemed suffocating. Her chest tightened as her mother's words echoed in her mind. "If anything feels wrong, don't hesitate to let me know." Excusing herself, Emily slipped out into the hallway, her heart pounding in her chest. The muffled giggles and the whispers from the living room felt a world away as she pulled out her phone with trembling hands. Her fingers fumbled over the screen as she dialed her mom's number. Mrs. Thompson answered on the second ring, her voice calm but instantly concerned. "Hi, sweetie. Is everything okay?" Emily's voice cracked as she replied, "Mom, can you come get me? I don't want to stay here anymore." There was no hesitation in her mother's response. "I'm on my way," she said. Her tone was firm and reassuring. "Just sit tight, okay? I'll be there soon." Emily exhaled a shaky breath, and a sense of relief washed over her. She stepped out onto the porch, clutching her sleeping bag tightly to her chest like a shield. The cool night air brushed against her face, calming her just slightly as she waited. The minute felt like hours. The distant sound of passing cars only heightened her anticipation. When Mrs. Thompson's car finally pulled into the driveway, Emily rushed down the steps. Her mom got out of the car immediately, wrapping her arms around Emily in a hug that seemed to dissolve the lingering tension. "Are you okay?" she asked gently, her hands resting on Emily's shoulder as she looked her daughter in the eyes. Emily nodded. "Yes, Mom. I just didn't feel comfortable." She felt safe now. Mrs. Thompson didn't press her for details. She simply opened the car door and helped Emily load her things in the back seat. "Let's go home," she said softly, her voice full of understanding. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. As they drove away, Emily sat quietly. For the first time that night, she felt like she could breathe. Her mom's presence was all she needed to feel safe again, and she realized just how much that promise, "Call me if anything feels wrong," had meant to her. By Monday, the entire school was buzzing with gossip about the sleepover at Madison's house. Whispered filled the hallways as students pieced together the shocking details. After Emily had left, the night had unraveled in ways no one could have predicted. Some of the girls, emboldened by peer pressure and poor judgment, had experimented with the substances they brought. It didn't take long for things to spiral out of control, leading to a medical emergency that required a frantic call to 911. The police arrived shortly after, and Madison's parents, who had been blissfully unaware of what was happening in the other room, were left devastated. Emily listened in disbelief as her classmates recounted the events. The thought of how close she had come to being involved made her stomach churn. She replayed the night in her mind, her mother's words echoing like a lifeline, "Call me if anything feels wrong." Emily realized just how narrowly she had avoided a life-altering mistake. Her instinct and her mother's unwavering support pulling her back from the edge of chaos. That night, as Emily snuggled into her bed, the familiar comfort of her favorite blanket wrapped around her, she felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude for her mom's love and protection, for the trust they had built, which had allowed her to reach out when she needed it most, and most importantly, for having someone who would always be there, no matter what. She silently vowed never to take that safety net for granted again. The choices she had made that night, guided by her mom's wisdom, reminded her that sometimes stepping away isn't a sign of weakness, but of strength and self-respect. Mothers and fathers are not just parents, they are a safe haven for their children. By being approachable and supportive, parents can create an environment where kids feel secure enough to seek help when they need it. A strong, trusting bond between parent and child can make all the difference in moments of uncertainty and vulnerability. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.